the Resident Evil franchise catch a break? This is the last picture with Rahim Khan, and I am reacting to teaser trailer that has just been put out for Zack Cregger's reboot of the Resident Evil franchise. The I think third time's the charm. Uh this is a franchise. I think unique to video games, but then practically I think to all other adaptations as well, that has gone through a three or four now reboots, right? If you include the television series and the animated series, but then has had so many adaptations and has also made a boatload of money. However, for all of that, and I mean, this is like almost, I mean, if you include the animated, what's it called, films, as well as the animated films, the TV series, I think all in all, this is like almost like 20 different projects, 20 different sort of adaptations of the Resident Evil video game. Now, I must confess that I think besides like maybe one or two of them back in like the early 2000s or something like that, or even thereafter, haven't played much of the Resident Evil franchise. But I have seen, I think, all of it. I think barring like I think one or two of the animated movies, I've seen everything. And I have to say, it's a shame for a franchise that has the potential to do great. And I'm not saying that this is going to be like sort of high art, but I mean, it has the potential to like, have the same culture worth as The Walking Dead. And I think it already does because it's across different mediums. But sort of for it to register in at least our film consciousness, our cinematic consciousness, conscience, whatever, um, it still has yet to achieve anything because let's be honest, movies, yeah, there are no sort of like, good ones hiding in there. Even the animated series, there's just one. Okay, wait, let's just. So, the teaser trailer, you guys know I don't watch trailers, but again, it was just a teaser and I thought I might as well watch it for the sake of this video. It doesn't reveal much, but I am encouraged by the fact that you have somebody like Zack Cregger, who is much like, for example, Jordan Peele, is establishing himself as like sort of a unique, a singular voice in horror cinema. It's like sort of almost um, like joining the ranks of Carpenter or Cronenberg or, people like that. Barbarians, and then we saw Weapons, and that movie made it to my top 10 list for 2025. So, like, I like the guy, I like what he's doing, and it's smart of Sony to, like, hand this over to somebody who is hopefully going to approach this quite different to the way, for example, Paul W.S. Anderson did it. And sort of, I think, 6 movies that he did, because we get it. This is a genre. I mean, the video games is like sort of action, horror, survival, right? And that's essentially what the movies were too. I mean, horror, sci-fi, action, thriller, survival, all of those things, mashed together to make these movies. And I mean, they had like, the zombie genre almost always does well. I mean, even if it's like, a serviceable movie, you will get butts in seats. You will get people turning out to the cinema to watch those movies. And that's cool. But I mean, all of the movies so far, and it's a shame, all of the movies so far have been bad. I mean, you know, there tends to be, these degrees of like this pong that usually comes from video game adaptations. They're just never good. And I think for another video we could delve into why. But, you know, I hate to say this because I respect Paul W.S. Anderson for for something like Event Horizon. Still one of like, the great space horror movies. But everything else that this guy has done, and let's not forget Mortal Kombat, everything else this guy has done has just been really bad. And like, I wonder what went wrong with this guy. Maybe that's another video as well. But I mean, besides Resident Evil being like a vehicle for his wife, Mila Jovovich, to do like somersaults and flips and wear like skimpy dresses and kill lots and lots and lots of zombies, the films were like, no, they were just, you, I cannot sit through them like right now. I remember watching them at the time. And even then, I realized that these were just not good movies. It was extremely cliche, formulaic, pandering to your average, like, gamer who was male, of course, thus, with skimpy dresses and stuff like that. And it's just blood, guts, and gore and action and sort of over the top stuff and, whatever. But I mean, that kernel, that sort of like, the basis of what made Resident Evil, I would say, so potentially, I would say, viable to studio execs, to Sony, was look at it like, you have an evil corporation um, who, cares more for profit than they do human lives. And, you have Raccoon City at the heart of it, at the heart of this zombie outbreak. And you have all of these disparate, these characters, whether it's RCPD people or, security from the Umbrella Corporation or just, regular people trying to make it out. It's just them banding together and trying to get out. Great, right? I mean, that tends to be the formula for, or the starting point for all of these zombie movies, whether it's like, or zombie shows, whether it's The Walking Dead or, it's 28 Days Later, or the Dawn of the Dead or the Zack Snyder ones or anything like that. Tends to be that, group banding together and fighting their way out. And then, you kind of dial up the action to 10 and you throw in these crazy zombies like that one in the first one who had, the mini gun and it was just gigantic Hulk type zombie. And then it got even weirder and sort of it became post apocalyptic. And then, the White House was like a forward operating base. And you just got really weird and stuff like that. Fine. Okay. But somehow or the other, despite this apparent winning formula, it never worked out. We never got good movies or even memorable ones or even ones you would like to watch today. Like I couldn't sit through any of these movies now. Um, Failed there. Then of course you got all of those different, the different animated ones, whether it was, a generation or what was the other one? Um, Generation was one in 2008, and then there was some other ones, and then whatever. But the one that I did kind of like and felt, despite the fact that the scriptwriters, the Japanese scriptwriters, need to come up, whenever they come up with like these fictional, like DC does this a lot, um, with these fictional, like Middle Eastern or South Asian countries, invariably Muslim. They come up with these ridiculous names for the countries. So in this one, and this was Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, the name of this country that is meant to be, I don't know, an analog for uh, what's it called, like Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, something like that. So they come up with this ridiculous one. It's called Panamistan. Who writes this shit? Well, written by Eiichiro Hasumi and Shogo Moto. Well, these guys need to come up with better nomenclature for their things. But the reason why I like this one was that, again, much like, for example, Pluto, it was in part a reflection on the war on terror. Um, and you have in this movie picking up with an almost Black Hawk Down like situation where, you know, you have these US soldiers in Panamistan and they're I don't know, bringing peace or democracy or whatever, who knows. But they are attacked by zombies, or they're attacked, it's later learned that bioweapons were used, and, blah, 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 this whole story. I didn't mind it as much. I actually liked it. And then, of course, you had, I think, one of the Marines becomes infected, and then he goes on to, like, sort of get revenge from Umbrella and all of that stuff. So it was good. I actually liked this one. I thought that, it's a good way of taking, the Resident Evil franchise, the mythos, the stories, and applying it to something like that. I didn't mind it as much. Um, this came out in 2021. Then, of course, you had another reboot that I wouldn't say coincided with this, but it was about the same time, and that was Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. Um, Again, I would like to say their hearts were in the right place. Um, because they kind of had, like, the atmospherics down. They had, the look and tone and stuff like that. And even though they tried to, you know assemble an ensemble cast, that's a bit of a tongue twister there. Just didn't work because they didn't really have any, like, notable actors in it. I mean, who do they have? I mean, the only one, like, yeah, I know these people, but like Neil Madonna, that guy, Robbie Amell, the other Amell's brother, and yeah, this didn't work. I remember, oh God, I remember this. I was the only one in the cinema. Yeah, and was great because the thing is that when you have an entire cinema to yourself, you get to pick the seat that you want, which I'm always like dead center, which has the most leg room. And then, of course, like, you had the cinema, the manager come up to me because this cinema I go to usually has an intermission, and he's like, "Do you want one in this one?" I was like, "Nah, just go ahead and play it all the way through." So yeah, I was thoroughly disappointed by this, and I'm sure Sony was too, because if they were hoping that this movie um, would at least, I don't know, revive the franchise, they were woefully mistaken. It just didn't do well. And following this with yet another reboot. And I don't mind the fact that they shifted away from movies to a different format, and that was, of course, thing, TV. But Netflix, which had done Infinite Darkness, they went and did what's it called? The adapt, TV, the series. Um, with when did that come out? That came out 2021 as well. Did that come out 2021 as well? No, wait, let me just quickly check that out. Blah blah blah. Films. No, I do not want the films. Original series. Don't want that. Let me just quickly dig that up. Yeah, here it is. 2022. And the reason why, what's it called? Well, I was gonna watch it regardless. I mean, it had Lance Reddick. I think. Well, it wasn't one of his last performances, but I love the guy who was in it. But then it also had one of ours, a Pakistani actor, Ahad Razamir. Even though he was barely in it, but I'm glad that Pakistani actors were actually getting out there, or at least people were interested in casting them, even though we think he was cast as like an Indian. But nonetheless, great having him in there. And yeah, again, even though they shifted this to like South Africa, it was produced in South Africa, and it kind of went back and forth between pre-virus and post-virus. Okay, but no. And again, the reason why I like the fact that you had this developed as a TV series is that you can flesh it out. You can really delve into stories when you have, what was this, like 8 episodes? Yeah, I think this was like yeah, 8 episodes. And with an average runtime of about 45 minutes, that's almost like an 8-hour story, an 8-hour movie. So again, another missed opportunity. It's a shame. I mean, I was just going through the stats, and has grossed, I mean, the movies altogether have grossed about 1.2 billion, which is, handsome amount. Um, and for that figure alone. it's like the most successful video game franchise. No, movie franchise adapted from a video game and all of that stuff. But I think fans are deserving of more. Just because we turn out and are expecting to have a better movie on hand, I think it's high time now, after almost 25 years, that we get a franchise. We get a film at least. Forget a franchise. We get a film at least that is worthy of our time. And why I'm hopeful, like, I can't really say much about the teaser trailer. Uh, Again, it's a teaser, right? But and I don't even need to watch the trailer proper, because here we are in May now. The movie's coming out in September, and I'm really glad because this is hot off the heels of Weapons. Now, again, Zack Cregger is somebody who I like. The guy has a very, he has a unique voice. He's done some very interesting things in the genre, in horror. And I think that, yeah, he is absolutely the right person to be handing this franchise over to. Now, of course, the hope is that we get that the eighth time is the charm, because, God, eight times is just one time too many. Um, Sorry, let me just Resident Evil 2026. Yeah, what do we have? Who is he cast in this? Because I think I just noticed. I recognize the guy in the teaser trailer. I don't remember his name. Austin Abrams, Zach Cherry, Kelly Reese, and Paul Walter Hauser. Oh God, I don't know who any of these people are. Yeah, this is the dude, Austin Abrams. I know this guy. I've seen him before. Brian, a medical courier, is in the process of making a delivery when a sudden outbreak occurs, forcing him to fight for survival. Okay. So I'm guessing that perhaps maybe um this isn't in the vein of the W.S. Anderson movies, where it's like sort of action horror. Maybe this is, said he hoped to return as Chris in the sequel, which included his boulder punching scene from confirm that no. But yeah, they were hoping to get involvement. Yeah. It was announced Cregger would co-write and direct a new Resident Evil film, which would serve as a reboot of the film series. Great. Um, Wait, let me just quickly read this out. In August 2025, Cregger revealed the film would be an original story set in the Resident Evil universe and would not feature any characters from the game, saying, I'm not going to tell Leon's story because Leon's story is told in the games. Fans already have that. Fair enough. Cregger stated it's going to be not at all like Barbarian and Weapons, sure. Instead, comparing the film to Evil Dead 2, 1987, and that this is a story that I would have wanted to write whether I got the IP or not. He went on to describe it as a love letter to the games, since he is also a player and a fan of the video games. Cool. Okay. So again, we will trust in Zack Cregger for this movie because, you know, it comes from somebody as a fan, and it comes from somebody who has a proven track record. This guy has done, contributed to cinema, and yeah, fingers crossed, this, we get finally a good Resident Evil movie. So for those of you who are eager, for the trailer, I hope you guys are rewarded then. I will wait, of course, until September of this year for the movie proper. So here's to Resident Evil and Zack Cregger. Please. Thanks.